Let's study Bloom taxonomy for effective learning assessment. As we intend to do the assessment effectively, let us first understand how learning happens in the students. So there is a very famous taxonomy called as Bloom taxonomy, which was originally published in 1956 by the efforts of Benjamin Bloom and his team, who investigated learning into three different domains. So they have created this set of three hierarchical models which can classify how learning happens in the education. So once we understand how learning happens, we will be able to assess it effectively. This originally published taxonomy was recently revised in 2001. There is a little change just in the interchange of 5th and 6th level, not greater change. So the originally devised Bloom taxonomy is still very much useful for affecting effective learning assessment of the students. So learning happens and we can set learning objectives on these three domains. Cognitive domain, which is knowledge based, because ultimately teaching is exchange of the knowledge. We share our learning with the students, but we not only intend to just share the knowledge, we expect some skills to be transferred in them so that they can also work on their psychomotor domains, which is more action based. They should be able to put the things taught to them into practice. And because we all are human beings, we need to consider emotion based domain, which is called as affective, because that decides how one receives the information, how one can develop the interest, the emotional stability of the students. Majorly, this Bloom taxonomy deals with cognitive level of this domain, and the assessment is also focused on this. So originally in 1956, when it was first time published after several conferences which took place before this, this was categorized into different levels. First level was knowledge based, after that comprehension, then application, then analysis, synthesis, and lastly evaluation. Going from lower level of the thinking to the more higher level of the thinking. So obviously, before reaching to this top, one must be pretty sure that this base is very much clear to the students. And when it was revised in 2001, the terminology was changed to different verbs, like knowledge became remember. So in this level, the very first level, and majority of the times in our examination system, we test how students are able to remember what they have learned. So the basic first level is about remembering. Then comprehension became understanding. Rather than just by hearting some text or terms or numbers, we need to test whether students really understand it. And if they understand, they will be able to express it in their language. Then application became to apply. So next we expect that if they have really understood it, when they pass out, obviously in the industry or whatever profession they choose, they should be able to apply it to the current situation which they are facing. So they will only be able to do it if they understand it. Then analysis became to analyze. These all terminologies are in the verb form. So if they are able to apply it, then a deeper level of understanding develops that they can analyze the things. They can understand it in such a way that they can systematically investigate something. They can break the concepts learned into different parts, and then they can join them, and they can come up with some new solutions also. So they should be able to now understand more deeply. Then there was interchange of these levels, that in 1956 synthesis, that is able to come up with some idea or construct some model, or design something, so some output. Now this is at the top, and before that there is evaluation. So evaluation means as they develop a deeper understanding of any particular topic, they should be able to judge, compare, they should be able to evaluate, examine. They should be get into this role of drawing some conclusions, evaluating, examining the contents learned. They should be able to predict. And lastly, they should be able to join all the pieces of information and learning and skills they have got, so that they can create something of their own. They should be able to design some plan, sketch some layout, develop some model, or develop some formulation, design some drug, design a protocol for the testing, which will be of their own. So if we train them to learn in this way, then only we will be able to assess them in this way. So for this particular topic, as we are going to understand how Bloom taxonomy can be used for effective learning assessment, we must be sure that we are making learning happen in this way. Then only students will be able to respond to it, because information they receive on the emotional domain, they will be able to react on it. So this Bloom taxonomy further can be simplified, because we need to assess them. So there are certain verbs which are given in the original taxonomy also, as well as in this revised taxonomy. We can use it for our assessment, for drawing question papers for them, for giving them assignments, for creating case studies, creating quizzes, and we will be able to bring them up to this level. And because this is the graph of their success from lower level of thinking to the higher level of thinking, it requires great amount of efforts, their involvement, careful selection of the techniques used for teaching, as well as uh, the efforts which are taken to design their assignments. So let us learn. If we want to create a question paper or any assignment for them, if we want to test how they are able to remember it, by heart it, so and reproduce it in the examination, the simplest thing, and majority of our questions are in this way: define something, or write something, then list out something by heart and then reproduce it, or in the viva if we ask them to repeat something, to state the causes, enlisting kind of all the questions which are straightforward questions. There is no uh, confusion in this case. It is not tricky for them to solve. It is a straightforward. If the syllabus says classification of anti-cancer agents, then if our question is classify anti-cancer agents with examples, that is a simplest and straightforward question, we can give it to them. For understanding level, classify, describe, discuss, explain, identify, locate, recognize, report, select, translate. These are just verbs which are there for our help to decide some activities which can be taken in the class, as well as you can add it into your question paper. We are going to see examples for each stage. Right now we are just briefly going through it. Then application, we will be asking them to solve something, to use this concept learned, to demonstrate something, to interpret, to operate, schedule, to execute some task which is given to them. So these three are the basic levels which majority of the students will normally be able to go if they practice about their learning, if they are keen enough to know the contents which are learned in the class. We need more efforts for these levels. So analyzing means they should be able to break the concept into different parts and derive some ideas out of them and understand how they are relating to each other. So they should be able to compare. If they are learning, say, dry granulation and wet granulation, they should conceptually now develop deeper understanding, and they should be able to compare about the merits. They on their own should be able to compare it. Comparing is not only about distinguishing them. So finding out the similarities as well as differences between them, then organizing them. If they are learning, say, 25 heterocycles which are containing different heteroatoms, then they should be able to look at them collectively and organize them into some different heading which you have not taught them. Then after that, if they are able to analyze something, then they go in a position of evaluating something. So they can judge which drug is better, which drug more suits to a patient. They should be able to weigh upon the scale. Here they can just compare, but now they can conclude something out of it. So what is the best method? For which drug dry granulation is more suitable? For which drug wet granulation is more suitable? Or in the synthesis, which particular reaction or reagent will be much more useful? So they should be able to draw some conclusion. They should be able to justify their conclusion. So they should be able to take up some stand after their learning. So we can give them tasks about defending on something. This is what we do in the Viva, to judge and select the best amongst them and prove why this particular drug is best, or for a particular drug why this is the best route. They should be able to conclude something or predict something. And lastly, which can give them a joy of creativity, that they should be able to produce something of their original to their credit. So here a variety of tasks we can give them, to design or to construct or to develop something, to propose some protocol, to investigate. More of practical it is, but on the paper also, still in the exams we can ask them to devise something. So for effective assessment, be it offline or online, first thing is make sure that learning happens in this way, so we are able to more effectively assess them. So one by one, we are going to now see the examples of certain questions which we can ask in the question papers, and they will be assessing them on these different levels which we have saw just now. So level 1 is about remembering. We saw whatever knowledge they have learned, are they able to reproduce it in the exam? So whatever syllabus says, like the pharmaceutical chemistry syllabus in the second year, that I have taken as the example for all these levels. So if the syllabus says they need to learn the brand names of certain drugs, then Enlist, you can add here at least 4 brand names for any drug example you can give. Then give the stability and storage condition of insulin. Draw the structure and numbering of these two heterocycles. Then define this term with examples. So knowledge level is the most straightforward, and majority of our questions traditionally are of this kind. So we usually don't face the problem. We have to retain some these kind of questions, okay? Because there are different levels, we have to include few questions of each level. So these questions are also important. We have very nicely designed Google Forms which offer options like student can answer in the short answer or paragraph, descriptive kind of thing, then quiz. We can ask them to upload some file or multiple choice grid. These all options can be used for forming a question paper based upon level 1, that is knowledge level. So knowledge level just tests what they remember about the learning which has happened in the class. So these are some starting points. Your question can start with the who, what, where, when, how, describe, what is, or enlist. There are different types of verbs. Then in case of level 2, this is also easy level, and there is a very famous wheel also, Bloom taxonomy or learning pedagogy wheel. They usually combine this level 1 and level 2 because more or less these are of simple and straightforward questions. So this level 2 test the understanding. If we need to ask them what is the storage condition of paraldehyde, so straightway we can ask give the storage condition of paraldehyde. But a level 2 question will be explain why this particular material is stored in the dark and cool place, or say why silver nitrate solution should be used within 24 hours. They should be able to understand. In the level 1 they are just understanding that this should be stored in this condition, or reagent should be freshly prepared. They are just by hearting this. But in level 2 we expect why this particular ingredient is stored in this particular condition. They should be able to justify it in their own words. So they should be able to express, they should be able to describe. So you can use verbs like describe, discuss, estimate, explain, express. Some verbs will overlap within different levels. So if they have understanding, then they will be able to answer these questions. Like give examples of two drugs which are containing quinoline. Now their syllabus says they need to learn few heterocycles, and then there are several categories of the drugs, and there are some names of the drugs which are marked with a star. Their structures they need to learn. Now they are learning heterocycles differently, they are learning structures of the drugs differently. If they understand what a quinoline is, whenever any drug comes in front of them, they should be able to catch whether quinoline is there or not, or which heterocycle is present in that structure. That type of question we can give to them. Or if they are learning that Congo red is used as indicator. Now we are asking them discuss how Congo red changes its color in different pH. So here they need to state in acidic condition what color it has, in basic condition what color it has, and why. What a resonating form of this indicator will have a particular color. So in understanding level, level 2, students should be able to express why a particular thing is happening. They should be able to discuss. They should be able to construct the sentences which are logical and prove why a particular thing is happening. They should be able to re-express in their own words. So any drug, its mechanism of action, then differences, the major differences between say two things, or giving the summary. This we can also test at the end of our lecture. When we deliver a talk for say 45 minutes, we can ask some students to summarize what they have learned. They need to retell the story in their own words. What was their learning? So Like this, we can inculcate the habit of expressing into the students. Then applying. So application means applying this knowledge into actual situations. Just now I gave you the example that in level 2 we can ask them, we can give them heterocycle, that give the examples of drugs which are containing this heterocycle. So that is still a direct question. Now we can ask them at level 3 if they have really understood what is a quinoline, what is pyridine, what is furan, or those bridged or bicyclic heterocycles. They should be able to identify the heterocycle present in any given structure. Now you need not to give them only drugs which are mentioned in their syllabus. You can give them any new chemical entities which are under, say, research or which are patented, something different which is not taught to them, and then see whether they are able to spot. They should be able to identify which particular heterocycle is present. So they are now applying this knowledge into uh, the actual situation which is in front of them. And the same question, like we know Congo red, it is used as an indicator. Now we are asking them to apply it in a practical situation. If you ask them, if we use Congo red in the acid-base titration, what color change will be there at the end point? So if Congo red is red in the alkaline and blue in the acidic solution, students should be able to apply it. Now they should start thinking that acid-base titrations can be carried out in two ways. We take acid in the beaker and base in the titrant, in the burette, or we can take reverse also. So based upon, if they have a knowledge of a titration, if we start with HCl in the beaker and NaOH in the burette, when all of the HCl has completely neutralized, extra drop of this NaOH or any alkali is going to react with the indicator to show the color change. So here color change should be from blue to red. So they should be able to apply it to different conditions. So any real life conditions or practical conditions you can give them which are not earlier covered. Earlier we have just covered the theory. They should be able to think about the applications. So giving the examples, how it is related to, why this particular fact is significant. So we can ask them any other examples where Congo red can be used. Now the job gets tougher over here. In the level 4, we are going to test them whether they are able to analyze something. So analysis technically means breaking down the objects or ideas into simpler parts to learn and finding evidence to support some generalizations. So here we can ask the questions in the form of, say, analyze, appraise something, break down something, calculate something, compare, contrast, criticize, diagram, because in the diagram we are simplifying the complete action. So we can ask them questions like, draw a schematic diagram for mechanism of action of any particular drug. So ideally they should be knowing this drug is given by which route and then to which organ it is targeted, and then it interacts with, say, which receptor, or it binds to which particular ligand, then there is secretion of, say, a particular enzyme, or if it is activated or it is releasing some hormone. So the whole mechanism of any activity can be broken down into different steps, and we are asking them to draw it diagrammatically, because when they are going to put it in the form of diagram, they need to label it, they need to draw it proportionately, they need to know the sequence of what is happening. Also, analyzing would also mean classify heterocycles based upon the heteroatom present. Now they might have learned the classification based upon say 5-membered heterocycles, then 6-membered heterocycles, then 7-membered heterocycles. Now we are asking them, suppose there are 20 heterocycles, this group they can break it down in different ways to understand. So are they able to classify them based upon say nitrogen containing, oxygen containing, nitrogen oxygen both containing, and then what effect they have on their properties? Or if they are learning different preparations of insulin, say it is a suspension, injection, so are they able to compare effectiveness of this preparation? So for seeing the effectiveness, they should first understand what is that formulation. It is given by which route, what is the stability, then what is the mode of absorption, and then how it will be effective. So slowly, a bigger concept, they should be able to break it down into simpler things, and they should be able to conclude something based upon them. They should be able to justify why a particular thing is happening. So you can also ask them what are the parts or components, say components of a particular formulation, or simply if they have functional groups in their syllabus, you can give them any structure which is not there in their syllabus. You can ask them what are different functional groups present in this drug, or classify in some way which is not already covered to them. Then outlining, diagramming, so they should be able to present the information, mapping in which kind of population a particular disease is prevalent, then to compare and contrast it on different levels, so comparing different types of formulations and justifying them, which one is effective. So what evidence you have, are there any reports about it, how do you postulate when you compare and judge? They should be able to prove that also at a lower level. At evaluation level, that gets more sound. So at level 5, it is the evaluation level. So they should be able to judge. They should be able to select something. They should be able to argue that why this stand is correct. And they will be able to take a particular stand based upon the knowledge, understanding, application, analysis, all the levels they have crossed till now. Now they start developing their own judgment about a particular thing. So suppose their syllabus has the structure of say imipramine. You can give them any similar structure which they have not seen, and you can ask them, predict and justify the activity of this compound. Now you are not telling which activity. So out of all the classes of drugs they have seen, they might have pointed out that azoles, they have antifungal activities. This tricyclic skeleton, it has antidepressant activity. So this is the knowledge they have developed. They are able to spot the heterocycle or a particular nucleus present. But now they should be able to come up with some judgment, and they should be able to justify why this will have a particular kind of activity. Or if they have learned about pKa of the drug, then different formulations and routes of administrations, then they should be able to predict the site of absorption. Now this is a bit conceptual level, that acid, we know acid in the acid is unionized, and only unionized form gets absorbed. So if you give them some structure of the drug, and if they are learning this concept whether the drug is acidic or basic, then, and they also know throughout the GI tract slowly the pH changes from acidic to alkaline. So at different positions of the GI tract, when the drug is exposed, what is the site of absorption? This they are concluding for the drug example which you have given them. Or just now we saw in the previous level, we can ask them to classify heterocycles based upon the group present. Now we can ask them to classify based upon their acidity to basicity. Give a scale. Acidic heterocycles, then neutral one, and then basic heterocycles. So they should be able to conclude why this particular heterocycle is acidic, why this is basic. So it is about selecting something, judgmenting something. We can give the statements like insulin is most effective in this formulation, or this pyrrole is acidic. Then do you agree with it? You need to explain. They should be able to take a stand whether they agree or they do not agree. Then what it is causing, the most important thing for that drug to act. So prioritizing, they should be able to arrange them in the sequence, like we asked them to arrange these heterocycles in a particular sequence from acidity to alkalinity. They should be able to conclude something. So which criteria they are using to assess. Now this is the last level, level 6. Here our job is just to create interest to such a level that we are just going to now observe their creativity, and students are really best. They are young minds and they really come up with something new and which we cannot imagine. They are so much creative. So in this level, they need to compile the component ideas into a new whole or propose alternative solutions. So like they are learning different brand names of different preparations, we can ask them to compose a particular brand name. So we are now asking them to bring out their own inner voice and come up with some solutions, or as they have learned what is a solubility. So we can ask them to propose one scheme which can be used in the practicals to test the solubility of a compound, which solvent they should take, what volume and what weight they should take, how much time they should shake it. After that, what should be the sequence of solvents in which it should be tested. As they are also learning the brand names, we can give them assignment of creating a database. We can ask them to visit some medical shops near to them and create a database with the highest turnover. So they should be able to present it in different form. Or we can also ask them, we can give them some topic and ask them to draw the questions based upon them. Now they will understand what kind of depth is needed in the learning. When they go in the role of a creator, then they should be able to become a good learner. Or rather than just teaching them the layout, we can ask them to visit the pharmacy shops and draw the layout which is actually followed by different pharmacists and present it and come up with their dream pharmacy medical store, how they will want or how they want their pharmacy store to look like. So here we must give them a chance to come up with some design or model of their own inner voice. So their ideas must be highlighted over here. You can ask them to devise a new formulation if a particular formulation has a problem, or if a drug has a problem. Then we can ask them, what will you suggest? How that drug can be modified to make it more effective, how excipients can be changed to make it a different dosage form. So this way, going through different levels, we will be able to bring them from, rather than just reading, remembering, understanding, slowly we can even, we are practicing this in the pharmacy profession. We regularly take their practical, so they are able to apply it practically, but their thinking must be stimulated and their creativity must be given a chance. Then only they will feel that accomplishment of completing this particular course, which will be a lifelong learning for them. So this is about Bloom taxonomy, different levels which we can use for online assessment. I'm very much thankful to the management of MCE Society, then Dr. B.N. Jagtap sir, Principal of this Institute of Pharmacy, Dr. Polshettiwar sir from School of Pharmacy, World Peace University, for giving me opportunity to interact with you all. If you have any doubts with this particular section, please write it in the comment section. I will be happy to answer them. So thank you to all the listeners. If you want any other topic to be covered, or further explanations of any particular term, you can also write me an email or personally contact me. Thank you so much.